Hello, everybody. Today we have a very interesting and different interview with a man who I've been speaking about for quite some time now. The man who wrote the Pyramid Code, the man who documented rays of light, the man who brought me into the world that I'm in today in regards to TLS, that organization otherwise known as the Light System, who we will be speaking about today. That man, my dear friend Ray, is sitting right in front of me. Ray, thank you so much for being here and allowing us to have your time.
You're welcome.
I'd like to first start by asking why it was so hard to get you on camera, and even with that, we had to change your voice, and you didn't want to reveal your identity.
Well, I'm a very private man, and I don't like to do anything in public. Plus, the nature of my work forces me to hide my identity.
When you say the nature of your work, what's interesting about you, and you can touch up on this, is you pretty much live a double life. There's one life in the public of what everybody knows you as, and there's another life having to do with an organization that you work with pretty closely, doing a lot of things behind the scenes. Can you touch up on what that's all about for anybody who doesn't know?
Well, yes, it is a double life. Up to 2010, I was living a pretty normal life. And then TLS entered my life. There's someone that I met who slowly put me through the process. And once you deal with TLS, everything is basically very secretive. You cannot identify yourself or anybody else from the organization, or anybody else except the people in the organization.
Can you explain a little bit more about what TLS is and what they do from your firsthand experience of working with them?
TLS is an organization that has been in existence now for many years, thousands of years, and it's right now there are about 7,000 members worldwide. There are chapters, offices, if you want to call them. They refer to it as chapter instead of offices in basically major cities around the world. There's a manager for every city, and there are managers on top of the managers. They do work that is physical and spiritual at the same time. Some members are doing the spiritual work. Some members are doing the physical, and some members sometimes doing both. They're capable of doing both.
Can you give some examples of what physical work would look like versus what spiritual work would look like?
Physical work would be into somehow going to someone's office, for example, a private office or public office, and basically try to grab some paperwork, important paperwork from his computer, from his desk, while keeping him busy doing something else and basically taking the material away. You can call it stealing if you want. Spiritual work is it's more of a, you can call it mind games, for example, changing somebody's perception about life, changing someone's opinion about certain subjects, such as politicians, and doing spiritual work on them. In most cases, they don't know what you're doing to them, and it all depends on the nature of the mission that you have at any given time. So this could be done in the middle of New York City. It could be done in the mountains in Utah. It could be done anywhere, depending on the mission. You have short missions, long missions.
What side of the organization would you consider yourself? More on the physical side, more on the spiritual side, or both?
I am more spiritual. I'm still spiritual, although sometimes I'll do physical work. But usually it's with other people.
Are there any examples you can give of the spiritual side of the work that you've done in the past?
No, I can't talk about that.
Overall, if you could sort of summarize the intention of TLS as a whole in terms of everything that they do, physical, spiritual, all the operations, what are they aiming for? What's their purpose?
It's a good question. I ask myself the same question over and over again, because sometimes I don't even understand the mission that I'm about to do. Sometimes I don't understand what is the target. They're not always telling me. Sometimes I just go do something, as I'm told, and I get out. Not always do I know what is the purpose, but overall, they are looking to fix things around the universe. It's about helping humanity, helping people in need, helping the world in general. I can tell you they are a very nonviolent group, and they don't like to use force, although they can. Force is not being used. They like to use, as I said before, I call them mind games. Change things. As long as you're allowed. You're not always allowed to change things on your own. Change things through the human spirit, the human mind, and so forth.
Do you know what the rules are in terms of being allowed to do something and not being allowed to do something?
Yeah, but it's very complicated. I don't know if I can even summarize something like this in such a short discussion. You are not allowed to interfere with someone's destiny. In 90% of the cases, that means, for example, it happened to me a lot, that I saw someone in danger and I knew I could help him and I wanted to help him. And I could get him out of the danger zone, so-called. And no, they told me no. You leave him alone. He has to go through this. You can't do that. On the other hand, many times it happened when I saw evildoers, I would call them, in my eyes, are criminals who I know. I know what they did. And when I wanted to stop them from doing something or punish them for what they did, because obviously the police aren't going to do anything, I was not allowed to do that either. And criminals could be an ex-Nazi, or it could be some pedophile. It could be... Things don't make sense to me till today. I don't understand the rules. I try to follow them to the max. I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you that not always I followed the rules. I did break the rules, and I did. I did pay a price for it when I did not follow the rules.
When you say you broke the rules, can you elaborate on what that means?
I did things that I was not allowed to do within the organization because I thought it was the right thing to do at the time. I believe I have a conflict with the organization where I believe in more action and more, sometimes to even use force when it's necessary. For a good cause, of course. And they are more laid back. Force is not something that they want to be dealing with. And unless they really, really, really perceive it as we don't have a choice, which again, and I have a conflict with it. I have a personal conflict with it. Maybe because I'm not an official member of the community of the organization. So, I don't know everything. They're not telling me everything, which I can understand. But things don't make sense to me in many, many missions. But I do them anyway.
You've told me many times that TLS has wanted to initiate you and you chose not to. Can you elaborate on why you made that choice?
I'm still a family man. I'm still a member of my community. To become a member will change everything, not only for me, but for my entire family and I. I don't feel ready. My family is definitely not ready. Most of the people who are close to me don't even know what's going on. So yeah, I didn't think it was a proper thing for me to do at the moment. especially where I had so many disagreements and conflicts between my way of doing things and their way of doing things. They like to do more of teamwork. I like to operate on my own, and it causes friction within me and my superiors.
One question I wanted to ask you in regards to you not necessarily understanding how they call the shots and what the so-called rules are. Who does make that decision on what would interfere with somebody's destiny and whatnot? Because you sound more of like a soldier.
Yes.
Where is the commander? Who is the commander? Is it a human? Is it in a higher realm? How do those things work?
No, it is a human. There was a rabbi that you know about. Rabbi Aleph Aleph AA, we call him. He's one of the main guys. Underneath him, there are many, many managers throughout the world. My direct manager, or boss, or supervisor, she's someone over here in New York, and I answer to her directly, and I take orders from her directly. And she's making decisions with the help of the rabbi. There are other people like the rabbi. They are humans, but they're, in my eyes, are superhumans. They have natural abilities to do things that me and you cannot even understand. And I've seen things with my own eyes that I'm still shocked till today, and there's a few more like the rabbi. I don't know how many are around the world, but I know there are others, and there are very, very unique people with special supernatural abilities.
You know how many people like that still exist on Earth in the 400, 500, 600-year-old realm in a physical form?
There are others who are older. I know of another guy who was 646 years, if I'm not mistaken. Still alive, still functioning, but again, if you see them, you're going to see a normal person. An old person, not super old, but old. In good shape. That's what you're going to see. You're going to say it's an old man in a good shape, very good shape, as a matter of fact.
What kind of abilities have you seen them do that you call incomprehensible to the normal common man?
I can't discuss much. I can tell you levitation. They can go underwater for many, many, many hours without breathing, and they have the ability to communicate with other ETs, we call them. And they speak many, many languages, including languages of other entities in this world, physical entities. We call them ETs, that are coming from different places in the world, and that's all about I can tell you at the moment.
Have you ever accessed any of those supernatural abilities, levitation?
I was given the ability, well, I was taught first, and given the ability, it can be taken away from me at any given time. And yes, but it's not something you do for fun. You do it for a specific mission.
What situation would levitation be necessary?
I can't discuss that.
But have you used it in an operation in the past?
Yes.
When it comes to extraterrestrial life that you brought up, I know a lot of people are looking forward to some form of disclosure. And many times there's this idea of false hope. You know, recently the government said there's going to be big disclosure. Nothing really happened. Have you ever had personal experiences with physical extraterrestrial beings?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on what that means, what your experience was like?
What would you like to know? Be more specific.
Let's start with TLS. Does TLS and extraterrestrial beings work together? And if so, in what way?
Yes, they do. Our people will go to their continent, if you want to call it that. Planet. Some of them call it continent. I don't know why, but they use the word continent rather than planet. It doesn't make a difference. The meaning is the same, and the people will come here on Earth and become part of society here through training, of course.
What would be the purpose of that so-called assimilation?
They use them for work here because they have very, very supernatural abilities. Such as, I know it's going to sound weird, but they actually create nuclear power from their hands and legs. There's something within their body that gives them this energy. It's like an eel, you know? He kills his prey by sending 600,000 volts into his brain and he kills him. That's how he kills him. So they have more than 600,000, but it's more like a nuclear power, I would say. They could be extremely dangerous at times to others.
How many extraterrestrial races, physically speaking, have you been in contact with through TLS?
Well, I don't remember. I would say about 5, 6.
We've spoken in the past and you told me about 3. And if I remember off the top of my head, it was Nashia, Sia, and Konom. Can you speak about those and maybe elaborate on the others you've come in contact with as well?
There are others that I cannot mention names. The ones I did mention to you that you just mentioned. And what can I say? In Sia, they're more human-like. They're just very tall.
Can you explain their physical characteristics for Sia for a moment?
They look very tall, Europeans, big bones. And they have their own language. They can also communicate by telepathy, but they do have their own language. All of them have their own language, and very advanced technologically, but very simple life. At their planet, meaning could be they sleep on the floor. They walk barefoot most of the time, unless they need to put protection on their legs for certain reasons. And their clothes are very simple. And what else? Like I said, they're very tall. The men and women, they live much longer than us. And see a very dry place. As a matter of fact, it's a problem they have now. They're losing a lot of the population due to lack of water. Water is a major problem in the last 100 to 200 years by them. It's hot. They are Europeans who happen to be dark. That means they look like they have a tan all the time and blonde hair. Light color eyes, blue, green, stuff like that. And the men are hairy, the women are not. And
do they all look alike for the most part, or is there diversity?
They look like a family. They all look very similar, European in nature.
Are there any other races that live on their planet with them?
There are humans who are there. That's part of the... They become like them. You can't come there and stay with the human body. They train you to change. You gotta know how to eat their food. You gotta slowly get used to their way of life. Same thing when they come to Earth. It's the same thing. It's a process, a very long process, and they train them how to... When I was there, I couldn't be there with my own body. They're giving you someone else's body. How they do it, I don't know, but my body wasn't up there. I was there, but not my body.
You've spoken about physical crafts that you've been on.
Yes.
Can you speak about those in terms of your travel?
Well, there's many different crafts. All kinds of sizes and shapes. The colors are basically black, silver, and white, mostly silver. You don't see colors like red and yellow and stuff like that. And like I said, different shapes. Some of them have windows, some of them have digital windows, which is... You think it's a window, but it's really like a TV screen, very advanced TV screen. Nothing like I've ever seen before. And there's a captain for every ship. And the crew could be anywhere between 3 to 30 people, depending on the size of the craft. And...
What are the different sizes you've seen and been on?
Well, it can go from a small... The small, I mean, could be the size of a yacht.
How many feet?
75. Imagine a 75-foot yacht. That's as small as they get, and they could be like two or three football fields in size. So the bigger the craft, the more crew members on the craft.
When you had the experience of going onto these crafts, first of all, how many experiences have you had on a physical craft, and where do you take off from?
You're asking how many times I've been on a flight? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, physically with your body.
Physically with my body, and my memory serves me right about 8-9 times. Not a lot.
Do you have one experience over another that really stood out of what happened on that craft?
I can't discuss the details. That's too much information.
What does the inside of the craft generally look like from the ones that you've been on?
It's again extremely advanced. Some of them have digital buttons. Some of them have screens. Some have windows. Some have buttons. Actual physical buttons. And a lot of them are being used with the captain's hands, or the captain might hold magnets in his hands and start moving stuff with his hands. And I know you could move it physically with the natural energy that it has, or you could use your own body energy, meaning the power of thought, and you can move a spaceship. Obviously, I do not know how to do it, but I've seen it done. And I got a few tips from the rabbi, because every time I went, it was with him, and he was teaching me stuff while everything was a learning experience. You don't go because you want to have fun. It's not where you go on vacation somewhere. It's all about a learning experience, something you need to learn. Grab it deep inside of you and use it in the missions that they're giving you, or other missions in the future.
What types of places have you taken off from? Is there something here in New York, New Jersey, Florida?
It could be many places. As long as there is a field, it could be done anywhere. Usually they have fields that they use on a regular basis. They don't like to go to new places without doing their homework at first and doing preparation in advance, but usually it's from one place. Here in New York, no. But in New Jersey, yes, there's one regular place that I visited a few times, and I didn't always fly. I was part of a team that just showed up to the place. But not every time I flew. Again, my experience with it is very limited because it wasn't my thing to do. It was a small part. It was more of the beginning when I started, and the last time I was on the spaceship was maybe 2014. I haven't done any since then.
When you take off, is it a quick takeoff, something slow, and how does nobody see?
First of all, it could be quick, it could be slow, depending on the plan is or what the captain is doing with the ship at the time. And there is a magnetic field. It's like a shield that surrounds the ship, or the entire field that you basically, if you were going to be on the road, looking on the field, you might see fumes. But you're not going to see a structure, you're not going to see humans, you're going to see fumes. You're going to think that fumes are coming off the ground. It looks like fumes. When you look straight at it, you're going to see, when you look on a hot day very far away and you see like fumes coming out of the road.
It's like when it's wavy.
It's wavy. That is what you're going to see, and you're going to think it's, or it could be on a snowy day. You're going to see the same fumes. That's what it looks like for a regular person that comes from outside. Usually it's not that exposed. And if somebody ends up being there, usually the security, that will stop him somehow from going further. And it did happen that security not always could get every angle of the field and people went through. But in most cases they don't see it, and if they see, nobody believes them anyway.
Are these fields privately owned, or are they public land?
In most cases it's public land.
Does the government have any idea that this is going on?
All governments know what's going on. They don't know about the details that I'm talking about, but they know. And there is communication. There's talk among the people. But yeah, the big politicians, the important politicians, they know what's going on. I don't know to what degree, but they know.
Would you say that those big politicians or individuals in the government on a wide level know about, let's say, the existence of TLS as an organization, what they do and how they do it?
I don't know if they're aware of the name TLS, but they know there are certain organizations that work in this type of field, yes. And for example, the rabbi, I was a witness to a meeting he had. He didn't come as the rabbi, but he had an actual meeting in Washington with the president at the time. I just don't want to mention the year, but he had meetings. How does he change his ID, his identity, and he meets the president? He can meet people in NASA. I met people from NASA. Certain people from NASA are part of TLS, important people from NASA. One of them is even mentioned in the book Rays of Light, which is not published yet. There's a whole conversation with him, the operations, work that has done with him that I happen to do with him personally. So yeah, they could be in Hollywood, they could be in NASA, they could be in government. I don't know everybody I met with, whoever I met, so I know, but they're all over the place.
When it comes to NASA for a second, there are a lot of people that have very controversial opinions because they believe that NASA is on the dark side and lying to us about many things. One thing being the shape of Earth. And there's a whole movement going around right now of this idea of flat Earth. Now, being that you have actually been out of Earth's atmosphere with crafts, have you had the opportunity to actually look out of a window and experience the shape itself? And if so, what did you see?
Well, first of all, about NASA. NASA is a government agency, so my advice to everyone, don't trust any government agency, including NASA. And I had the privilege of working with someone within NASA. Within NASA that happens to be very famous, I'm not going to give his name, very famous, and a great individual who happens to work on the TLS side. But to tell you that NASA is an agency you could trust, no. I'm sure they're corrupt like every other governmental agencies. I don't trust any of them. I would never trust any of them. And what was the second question? I'm sorry.
In terms of the actual shape of Earth, when we had the so-called moon landing, a lot of people say, well, no, it was all fake. It was a Hollywood production. That might be so. I have no idea. But when it comes to the actual shape of Earth, what was your experience if you had the privilege and opportunity of looking out the window on your way out?
No, this is the one thing NASA is not lying about. It's not flat. I don't like to use the word conspiracy theories, but it's nonsense. It's not flat and it's not fake. And although many other things within government are, but we're not going to get into it now.
The speed at which you left planet Earth, how fast are we talking?
I have no clue. I can tell you it's extremely fast, but first of all, for a person like me to be on a spaceship, I can't just walk on a spaceship. I got to drink something in most cases, something that tastes really bad. I don't know what's in there, but I know it's all natural herbs. I don't know where they get them from, but I have to drink before or depending on the spaceship, or the travel that you're doing, the location you're going to. Sometimes you have to put a suit on to protect your body from the pressure.
Is the concoction that you would drink being done to protect you from atmospheric conditions?
Yes. And from getting sick. Although this concoction made me nauseous, most of the time, for days after, even when I come back, I was still feeling nauseous for a few days. But eventually you get used to it.
How long would you have to drink it for before the actual spaceship experience? My
very, very first time to have this crazy travel, I had to drink it for about a month to get my body ready for the travel. And it wasn't pleasant. But I did it, and it's why there was 2 flights I remember that I did with the suit. The rest was without.
Back to the actual speed at which you left, how were you able to observe planet Earth from the outside if you moved away from it so quickly? What was your experience looking out those windows?
So it's very interesting when you, let's say you're looking through the window so you can feel the speed, and you know you're flying because you feel pressure, certain pressure. In most cases, the captain will tell you to sit. You could stand, but you have to be strapped. They don't have to. I guess they're used to it. They're not strapped. Only the newcomers are being strapped. And looking through a window, you know, you're moving extremely fast, but your perception of it, you're moving very slow. So I see things through the window that's moving extremely slow. How does it happen? I don't know, but they're changing your perception of time. And so again, when you look through a window, it looks like you move very slow, but you know that you're moving very fast. And you're seeing many things throughout. Your flight could take anywhere between 5-10 minutes to 20-30, but they don't need a lot of time, to our understanding of time, to get places.
What types of distances are we speaking here?
Millions and billions of light years away. We're talking outside of what we know of the universe. Totally outside. Now those certain things could be done with the physical body. Combination of soul and body.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
You could do as a human being, once you learn the system, exactly what the spaceship is doing without the spaceship.
With your physical body flying that way, you're saying?
With the physical body, obviously takes a lot of drinking and training. And...
drinking the concoction?
Yes. And you could do it without your body. They call it out-of-body experience. And you could get to many places very fast. And again, I'm trying to emphasize here what I'm saying. It's not like you're dreaming. You're not dreaming. You're actually doing something and you're getting places. And when you're getting to places and you need a physical body, don't ask me how the rabbi did it. But there was always a body for me to borrow. So I was one of them. We were one of them. In Sia, for example, first time we arrived, I was given a body. The rabbi walked normally. And people knew him, and they greeted him. And you could see the love. Excellent relationship is like, you see, they love him, they admire him. But he walked around like a normal guy from Earth, and he was making fun of me because he saw that I'm in shock. It was a funny experience. Very interesting experience in Sia. But yeah, I think I spent there. First time I was there, I spent like 3 days.
3 days according to Earth time?
Yes.
What is that translated into time and how it works on that planet?
I can't even begin to explain. I don't know how to explain it.
In that 3-day period?
First of all, they don't have nighttime. It's always sunny.
On Sia?
On Sia, there are 3 suns, there are no moons. There's no moon. It's always hot, always sunny, sometimes less sunny, sometimes more sunny, but it's always sunny.
Are there clouds?
Very few. Like I said, they have a rain problem. They have a water problem.